Hi, I'm Angela Martin and welcome to this Quickcast. Now, with the soon-to-be released macOS 10.14, also known as macOS Mojave, this episode will be focused on some of the basic guidelines we can follow prior to the installation of the new macOS 10.14. Now, before we start the upgrade process, we first need to make sure that our Mac does meet the basic system requirements to run macOS Mojave. Now, to do this, we will go into our web browser and we'll go to the website everymac.com. Now, on the sidebar of the main page, we click on the macOS support button, and on the second paragraph it states that any system that has the word current written next to the Mac supported OS will support macOS Mojave. If the word current with an asterisk is written next to the Mac supported system, then it will also support macOS Mojave, but there might be some unsupported features. So if we then scroll further down on that page, it shows us all of our Apple computers as well as the Mac's supported OS. Now, if we want to compare it with the system that we're currently running, we'll go to the Apple in the top left hand corner and about this Mac in our Apple menu, and here it shows us our model as well as the year of its release as well as the processor. Now we take that information and we'll find the exact match on the web page. So if we scroll down, in my case I'm looking for the MacBook Pro mid 2012 model Retina with a 2.3 gigahertz processor, and it shows me it's current with an asterisk, which means that I will be eligible for the macOS Mojave upgrade. However, some features I will not be able to use on my current Mac. Now, besides checking if our Mac will meet the basic system requirements, we can also check if our third-party apps will be compatible running macOS Mojave. Now, to do this, we once again return back to our web browser and we'll go into the website roaringapps.com. Now here we can search for any specific app by just typing it into the search application bar. However, we can also search for a whole group of apps or even suites by just clicking on the View macOS Apps button. Now here it will take me into a table which I can now display up to 100 apps at a time, and it will show me the status by comparing it to the different color-coded buttons. Now, what makes it easier that we can search for a specific suite or app? So say for instance, if I now want to check if the Adobe CS6 will be compatible with Mojave, here I can see that it shows me all of the different apps within that suite, and also shows me for each OS the compatibility with the green button. But in my case with Mojave, it shows no data. The other option we also have is we can turn on filters, which is showing on the page, and we can indicate which apps are compatible and check if our apps will fall amongst those. So to do this, I'll click on the filters button, and here I will only show Mojave, and I want to show applications which status are works fine. If I now remove my search, here it will now show me all of the different apps which will be compatible running macOS Mojave. Now I can simply just check if any of the apps that I have on my machine will be compatible to Mojave. Now that we have the compatibility report of our third-party software as well as our Mac meeting the basic requirements of macOS Mojave, we can then look at the next step, which is whether our macOS, our third-party software, as well as our Apple software are up to date. So to do that, I'll first check my Apple software by going to the Apple in the top left-hand corner, go to the App Store, and within the App Store, I'll go to my Updates tab, and this will then show me my macOS are up to date. And for those apps that are not up to date, like in my case with iMovie and GarageBand, I can just click on the Update All button. Now keep in mind, when it comes to other third-party software like your Adobe suites as well as your Microsoft Office suites, I would recommend to go into the applications and check whether those applications are up to date. This will normally be found under the help menu item on the menu bar. In other words, if I should go into Microsoft Word, I'm just going to search for it as it is not on my dock. So in my case, I've got Microsoft Word 2011, and I can then just go to my help and check for updates. Now, after updating my macOS, my Mac apps, as well as my third-party apps, I can do the next step, which is creating a Time Machine backup. Now, for this purpose, we need an external storage device, and in my case, I've got it all plugged into my USB. Now, just to show this, I'll go to my Finder window, and in my Finder window, I'll see under my devices, it shows me my external device, which is also called Macintosh HD at this point. Now, keep in mind, Time Machine does require the external device to be a macOS journaled partition or formatted drive. And if it's not, it will reformat that drive. So be aware, if there's any content on that partition or on that drive already, it will erase that information. So before even setting it up, make sure that it is a macOS format by just doing a secondary click on that drive or partition and get info. And there it states that mine is a macOS extended journal drive, so I'm okay, don't need to worry about information being erased. Now, for me to set up my Time Machine backup, I can go to my Apple menu, System Preferences, and in my System Preferences, I'll click on Time Machine, and here I can click on Select Backup Disk. Now here it picks up all of my disks or partitions that is plugged in or that it is picked up on my network as well as on my machine. So in my case, I want to use my Macintosh HD, so I click on that external disk and I click on Use Disk. Keep in mind, I can click on the Encrypt Backups checkbox. Now what this will do is it will back up my passwords as well. But when I click on Use Disk, it will ask me to create a backup password. Now be aware, you need to remember this password. If in any way this password is lost, then that backup is not accessible at all. So in my case, I don't want to use the encryption option, so I'll just go back, choose different disk, and I will keep my encrypted backup unticked, and I'll just click Use Disk. Now for this, I don't need a password, and there it picks it up. It shows me when my next backup is taking place, and at the same time I've got the checkbox for showing my backup in the menu bar ticked, which is showing it as this little clock indicator on my menu bar. So now if I click on that, I can click on Backup Now, or I can just enter my Time Machine backup. This will now do an automatic backup. Now there's another method to do backups, and this is done through a purchasable app called Carbon Copy Cloner. Now, unlike Time Machine backup, which will only back up your information, the Carbon Copy Cloner will not only back up your information, but the entire operating system as well. So if anything goes wrong with the upgrade of the new operating system, you can always revert back to the previous operating system with its content through Carbon Copy Cloner. Now, to obtain the Carbon Copy Cloner application, we would go into our browser to a website called bombedge.com. And here we'll see that there is a 30-day trial we can download for Carbon Copy Cloner. So after our backup is complete, we can then now start the upgrading process to macOS 10.14. So just to go through the guidelines once again, we first of all check if our Mac meets the system requirements for the new upgrade. Then we'll check the compatibility of our third-party apps. Then we'll do the updates of all of our software as well as our current macOS. And then we'll do the backup of our entire Mac. So now that we are complete with all of the guidelines, we are ready for the upgrade. Now to obtain the macOS Mojave upgrade in the App Store, you can either just search for it under the Feature tab button, and it will be available within the Updates tab button as a new upgrade. So I hope that you enjoyed this Quickcast with me, Angelo Martin, and as always, hope you have a fantastic day and goodbye.